This video is going to be a little bit longer because we're going to be looking at creating a door with a button that will open it. So you'll have to stand on the button, then the door will open. The way that we're going to build it is with the door and the button in the same scene. So each button will be connected to a particular door. That way we don't need to write complex code to match the button up with the door. We can just say trigger this animation and it will work. First thing we're going to do is to go ahead and create a 2D scene, and I'm going to call this door and button. Then we're going to go ahead and create a static body for the button. So this is going to be called button. And we'll go ahead and create a static body for the door. So this is going to be called door. Notice how I'm doing these here. So the button and the door are siblings. They're both children of this here. Then I'm going to go ahead and create an animation player. Now underneath the button, we're going to have a sprite. And underneath the door, we're also going to have a sprite. And actually I'm going to put these around the other way. So I'm going to put the sprite there, put this underneath here, put that underneath there. I'll rename this button door, button, and this one door. And then underneath this, it's going to need a static body, sorry, not a static body, a collision body, collision shape, and same with the button. Collision shape, we'll add those shapes shortly. The other thing with the button that we're going to need is an area node. And that's also going to have a collision shape on it. So this is what it's going to look like here. So how it's going to work is the door is going to have a sprite, but that sprite's going to have a static body that we can't walk through. And the button is also going to have a sprite, and it's going to have a static body that we can stand on, but also an area that we can kind of see whether we're actually standing on the button. The animation player is going to open the door and depress the button. So let's go ahead and add in the sprites here. So I've got my sprites down here. The button in the files is actually called button instead of button, but it still works. So I put that in there. It's only one single texture, so that's all good. And I'll just get this up here. So once that's in, I'm actually going to move that button shortly. I can click this little button here, which means when I move it, everything goes with it. And I'm not accidentally clicking on something else. Now with the door, I'm going to put the door sprite in there. Now the door is called strange door closed. That's going to go into there. Now immediately we can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 animation nodes. I'm going to go ahead and add in H-frames 10. So we get that door there. Cool. Now I kind of wish it had an outline down here. It does sort of have an outline, but it's not great. And it looks like it's kind of half finished, but it'll do. So let's go ahead and get this sorted. Now the collision shape for this button is going to be a rectangle, and I'm going to make it quite small. Zoom in on this, bring that in, it's pixel perfect, there it is. The area shape is going to also be a rectangle. It's going to sit above that other one. Bring it down, bring it in, and that's going to be like that. That's all looking good. The collision shape for the door is going to be a collision, a rectangle. And we just need to make sure it's the right height and width. That looks pretty good. All right, now it doesn't actually matter where we put these in the scene. You'll see why shortly, but I'm going to click this and click that button there, click this and click that, so that if I want to move this around, I can. And I can just click on that and move it without accidentally moving something else. So the animation player is going to be a big component of this. So we're going to need a few animations. The first animation is going to be button up. And all that's going to be is if we click on this sprite, we're just going to lock this texture in. That's it. Doesn't actually matter how long the animation is. Doesn't need to be looped. It's not animating, so it's fine. And we're going to create a new animation called button down. And that is going to be, if we grab button pressed and put it in there and keyframe that, that is button down. Now we want to switch this to button up so that that's what it starts at, and we'll put it in the code as well. Then we need to switch over to this one, and we're going to make animation new, door closed. Now there's a few things that we need to do here. First we need to keyframe this texture. So we'll click that. And then we need to keyframe the number of H frames, and you'll see why shortly. And then we need to keyframe the actual frames in. Now there are 10 frames here, so we don't need to change this, but we're going to change that there. Create. And then we will just reset that back to 0 and hit this 10 times. And then put it on loop, and you'll see that that will play. It like has a little pulsing effect going through. It looks pretty cool. All right, so that's that. Now we need animation door open. New door open. Now this one's going to be 14 frames long. I'm pretty sure it's 14. We'll check it in a minute. I'll go back to the start of this, and I'm going to go to the door sprite, and I'm going to drag in the strange door opening. Now with strange door opening, I'm going to keyframe that, and I need to keyframe this H frames. I think it's 14. I'll just check. Yeah, it is 14. So we keyframe that to 14, and we keyframe the frames here now. So I'm going to keyframe that one. I'll just reset it and then go through and click it 14 times. And that looks pretty good. I'm not sure why that's gone all the way out to 2 seconds. 14, it should be 1.4. 1.4 like that. Okay, so that's what it should look like. Okay, so the reason that we had to keyframe the number of H frames before for the other animation was because we may want to close this door at some stage in the future, in which case we could just play the door open animation in reverse. So it would look like this. It would come up, and then we would set it back to door closed and just have it play that door animation. So we've got all our animations here done, but there's one more thing that we have to do. And that is in the door open animation. Once it gets to about this keyframe, we're going to go ahead and disable the collision shape, but we will enable it at the start. So enabled is on, keyframe that, and then go to here and disabled keyframe that. While we're doing that, we'll go to door closed and just make sure, you see how it's disabled still, we'll just make sure we keyframe it disabled to on at the first frame. So we've got these things happening now. Now the last thing we need is a bit of code. So the code is going to be fairly straightforward. I'll just save this into my scenes folder, door and button, and I'll add the code there, which should be door and button in scenes. And then I can start to go ahead and add in some of this stuff. So this here is the only bit of code we really need. I'm going to go node, signals, body entered. And pretty much like all the trap things we've done so far, if body.is in group player. Now here's where it gets a little bit different. What we need to do is we need to go ahead and animate some things. So first thing we're going to do is animation player dot play button. Animation player dot play button down, and then $ animation player dot play door open. Now here's what we're going to do in this bit. This is a little bit confusing. We haven't done this before. Before we do anything else, we need to Actually, we don't. I think that this should be all good. I have written this script before, so let me just check it. Scenes, old scenes, door and button. I did something else, so that's actually fine. I've managed to simplify it since then. Okay, when it's ready though, we're going to add in $animation player dot play button up, just in case it wasn't, and $animation player dot play door closed. All right. Now, to put this in the world, and this is what I mean when I say it didn't matter where you position things before, we're going to bring door and button in. You can see it just goes anywhere. Is it actually somewhere that's there? So if I try to move this though, it's annoying, and I think, well, why did I put it anywhere? But what I can do is I can right click over here and click editable children, and then I can click on this one and I can move it wherever I want. So I want to move it to there, and this one I want to move it to here. Oh, now that is a problem there. Oh, did I make a mistake in the this button here? Should, if I go back to here, the button does have that on it, but I'm not sure why it doesn't have it on here. So I'm just going to click it on here anyway and click that, so that if I go to move it, you'll see it moves the whole thing. So I'll run this now and let's test it. And that works, it opens the door. Now you may have noticed that if I run over this, my little guy actually kind of bumps over it. The reason for that is, one thing I did is edit my player scene, and you can see I've done a few annoying things here, is I've changed the body collider to a capsule and made it the right size. So normally it was a rectangle before, and now it's a capsule. That just means he'll kind of slide up on those edges there rather than hitting it and not being able to go forward. So this one here, this capsule, is really handy, and I had steered away from it because I'd had issues with it before in colliding with the ground and touching the ground. But changing it here, it hasn't had any issues for me. If you get issues, comment below. Also, if you'd like to see me do some live stream stuff with computer programming and developing a game, and kind of watch me figure it out from scratch and scratch my head and see all the frustrations that come with computer programming, especially game development, let me know in the comments below, and I can do some live stream stuff either on Twitch or YouTube. I don't really mind, but if that's something you want to see, let me know.